Chapter 48. What? He's not dead, Warner says. Though he is severely injured, I suspect they should be able to revive him. What? I'm panicking on my bones. What are you talking about? Please, Warner says. Sit down. I'll explain. He folds himself onto the floor and pats the place beside him. I don't know what else to do, and my legs are now officially too shaky to stand on their own. My limbs spill onto the ground, both our backs against the wall, his right side and my left side divided only by a thin inch of air. 1, 2, 3 seconds pass. I didn't want to believe Castle when he told me I might have a gift, Warner says. His voice is pitched so low that I have to strain to hear it even though I'm only inches away. A part of me hoped he was trying to drive me mad for his own benefit. A small sigh. But it didn't make a bit of sense if I really thought about it. Castle told me about Kent too, Warner says. About how he can touch you and how they've discovered why. For a moment I wondered if perhaps I had a similar ability, one just as pathetic, equally as useless. I was extremely reluctant to believe it. It's not a useless ability, I hear myself saying. Really? He turns to face me. Our shoulders are almost touching. Tell me, love, what can he do? He can disable things, abilities. Right, he says. But now will that ever help him? How could it ever help him to disable the powers of his own people? It's absurd. It's wasteful. It won't help at all in this war. I bristle, decide to ignore that. What does any of this have to do with Kenji? He turns away from me again. His voice is softer when he says, would you believe me if I told you I could sense your energy right now? Sense the tone and weight of it? I stare at him, study his features and the earnest tentative note in his voice. Yes, I tell him. I think I'd believe you. Warner smiles in a way that seems to sadden him. I can sense, he says, taking a deep breath, the emotions you're feeling most strongly. And because I know you, I'm able to put those feelings into context. I know the fear you're feeling right now, for example, is not directed toward me, but towards yourself and what you think you've done to Kenji. I sense your hesitation, your reluctance to believe that it wasn't your fault. I feel your sadness, your grief. You can really feel that? I ask. He nods without looking at me. I never knew that was possible. Oh, I never knew that was possible, I tell him. I didn't either. I wasn't aware of it, he says. Not for a very long time. I actually thought it was normal to be so acutely aware of human emotions. I thought perhaps I was more perceptive than most. It's a big factor in why my father allowed me to take over Sector 45, he tells me. Because I have an uncanny ability to tell whenever someone is hiding something or feeling guilty or, most importantly, lying. A pause. That, he says. And because I'm not afraid to deliver consequences if the occasion calls for it. It wasn't until Castle suggested there might be something more to me than that I really began to analyze it. I nearly lost my mind. He shakes his head. I kept going over it, thinking of ways to prove and disprove his theories. Even with all my careful deliberation, I dismissed it. And while I am a bit sorry, for your sake, not for mine, that Kenji had to be stupid enough to interfere tonight, I think it was actually quite serendipitous. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Sorry. Because now I finally have proof. Proof that I was wrong. That Castle, he says, was right. What do you mean? I took your energy, he tells me. I didn't know I could. I could feel it all very vividly when the four of us connected. Adam was inaccessible, which, by the way, explains why I never suspected him of being disloyal. His emotions were always hidden, always blocked off. I was naive and assumed he was merely robotic, devoid of any real personality or interests. He eluded me, and it was my own fault. I trusted myself too much to be able to anticipate a flaw in my system. And I want to say Adam's ability isn't so useless after all, is it? But I don't. And Kenji, Warner says after a moment, he rubs his forehead, laughs a little. Kenji was very smart, a lot smarter than I gave him credit for, which, as it turns out, was exactly his tactic. Kenji, he says, blowing out a breath, was careful to be an obvious threat as opposed to a discreet one. He was always getting into trouble, demanding extra portions at meals, fighting with the other soldiers, breaking curfew. He broke simple rules in order to draw attention to himself, in order to trick me into seeing him as an irritant and nothing more. I always felt there was something off about him, but I attributed it to his loud, raucous behavior and his inability to follow rules. I dismissed him as a poor soldier, someone who would never be promoted, someone who would always be recognized as a waste of time. He shakes his head, raises his eyebrows at the ground. Brilliant, he says, looking almost impressed. It was brilliant. His only mistake, Warner adds after a moment, was being too openly friendly with Kent, and that mistake nearly cost him his life. So, what? You were trying to finish him off tonight? I'm still so confused, trying to make an attempt to refocus the conversation. Did you hurt him on purpose? Not on purpose, Warner shakes his head. I didn't actually know what I was doing, not at first. I've only ever just sensed energy. I never knew I could take it. But I touched yours simply by touching you. There was so much adrenaline among the group of us that yours practically threw itself at me. And when Kenji grabbed my arm, he says, you and I, we were still connected. And somehow I managed to redirect your power in his direction. It was quite accidental, but I felt it happen. I felt your power rush into me, rush out of me. He looks up, meets my eyes. It was the most extraordinary thing I've ever experienced. I think I'd fall down if I weren't already sitting. So you can just take other people's powers? I ask him. Apparently. And you're sure you didn't hurt Kenji on purpose? Warner laughs, looks at me like I've just said something highly amusing. If I had wanted to kill him, I would have. And I wouldn't have needed such a complicated setup to accomplish it. I'm not interested in theatrics, he says. If I want to hurt someone, I won't require much more than my own 2 hands. I'm stunned into silence. I'm actually amazed, Warner says, how you managed to contain so much without finding ways to release the excess. I could barely hold on to it. The transfer from my body to Kenji's was not only immediate, it was necessary. I couldn't tolerate the intensity for very long. And I can't hurt you? I blink at him, astonishment. At all? My power just goes into you? You just absorb it? He nods, says, would you like to see? And I'm saying yes with my head and my eyes and my lips, and I've never been more terrified to be excited in my life. What do I have to do? I ask him. Nothing, he says so quietly. Just touch me. My heart is beating, pounding, racing, running through my body, and I'm trying to focus, trying to stay calm. This is going to be fine, I say to myself. It's going to be fine. It's just an experiment. There's no need to get so excited about being able to touch someone again, I keep saying to myself. He holds out his bare hand. I take it. I wait to feel something, some feeling of weakness, some depletion of my energy, some sign that a transfer is taking place from my body to his, but I feel nothing at all. I feel exactly the same. But I watch Warner's face as his eyes close and he makes an effort to focus. Then I feel his hand tighten around mine and he gasps. His eyes fly open and his free hand goes right through the floor. I jerk back, panicked. I'm tipping sideways, my hands catching me from behind. I must be hallucinating. I must be hallucinating the hole in the floor not 4 inches from where Warner is still sitting on the ground. I must have been hallucinating when I saw his resting palm press too hard and go right through. I must be hallucinating everything, all of this. I'm dreaming and I'm sure I'm going to wake up soon. That must be it. Don't be afraid. How? I stammer. How did you do that? Don't be frightened, love. It's all right. I promise. It's new for me too. My power? You don't feel any pain? He shakes his head. On the contrary, it's the most incredible rush of adrenaline. It's unlike anything I've ever known. I actually feel a little lightheaded, he says, in the best possible way. He laughs, smiles to himself, drops his head into his hands, looks up. Can we do it again? No, I say too quickly. He's grinning. Are you sure? I can't. I still can't believe you can touch me. That you really, I'm shaking my head. There's no catch. There are no conditions. You touch me and no one gets hurt. And not only does no one get hurt, but you enjoy it. You actually like the way it feels to touch me. He's blinking at me now, staring like he's not sure how to answer my question. Well, yes, he says, but it's a breathless word. Yes, what? I can hear how hard his heart is beating. I can actually hear it in the silence between us. Yes, he says. I like it. Impossible. You never have to be afraid of touching me, he says. It won't hurt me. It can only give me strength. I want to laugh, one of those strange, high-pitched, delusional laughs that signals the end of a person's sanity, because this world, I think, has a terrible, terrible sense of humor. It always seems to be laughing at me, at my expense, making my life infinitely more complicated all the time, ruining all of my best laid plans by making every choice so difficult, making everything so confusing. I can't touch the boy I love, but I can use my touch to strengthen the boy who tried to kill the one I love. No one, I want to tell the world, is laughing. Warner, I look up, hit with a sudden realization. You have to tell Castle. Why would I do that? Because he has to know. It would explain Kenji's situation, and it could help us tomorrow. You'll be fighting with us, and it might come in handy. Warner laughs. He laughs and laughs and laughs, his brilliant eyes gleaming even in this dim light. He laughs until it's just a hard breath, until it becomes a gentle sigh, until it dissolves into an amused smile, and then he grins at me. Until he's grinning to himself, until he looks down and his gaze drops to my hand, the one lying limp on my lap, and he hesitates just a moment before his fingers brush the soft, thin skin covering my knuckles. I don't breathe. I don't speak. I don't even move. He's hesitant like he's waiting to see if I'll pull away, and I should. I know I should, but I don't. So he takes my hand, studies it, runs his fingers along the lines of my palm, the creases at my joints, the sensitive spot between my thumb and index finger, and his touch is so tender, so delicate and gentle, and it feels so good it hurts. It actually hurts, and it's too much for my heart to handle right now. I snatch back my hand in a jerky, awkward motion, face flushing, pulse tripping. Warner doesn't flinch. He doesn't look up. He doesn't even seem surprised. He only stares at his now empty hands as he speaks. You know, he says, his voice both strange and soft. I think Castle is a little more than an optimistic fool. He tries too hard to welcome too many people, and it's going to backfire, simply because it's impossible to please everyone. A pause. He is the perfect example of the kind of person who doesn't know the rules of this game. Someone who thinks too much with his heart and clings too desperately to some fantastical notion of hope and peace. It will never help him, he sighs. In fact, it will be the end of him. I'm quite sure of it. But there is something about you, Warner says. Something about you, the way you hope for things. He shakes his head. It's so naive that it's oddly endearing. You like to believe people when they speak, he says. You prefer kindness. He smiles just a little, looks up. It amuses me. All at once, I feel like an idiot. You're not fighting with us tomorrow. Warner is smiling openly now, his eyes so warm. I'm going to leave. You're going to leave. I'm numb. I don't belong here. I'm shaking my head, saying, I don't understand. How can you leave? You told Castle you were going to fight with us tomorrow. Does he know you're leaving? Does anyone know? I ask him, searching his face. What do you have planned? What are you going to do? He doesn't answer. What are you going to do, Warner? Juliet, he whispers, and his eyes are urgent, tortured all of a sudden. I need to ask you something. Someone is bolting down the tunnels, calling my name. Adam. Chapter 59. I jump up, frantic, and tell Warner I'll be right back. I'm saying, don't leave yet. Don't go anywhere just yet. I'll be right back, but I don't wait for his response because I'm on my feet and I'm running toward the lighted hallway, and I almost slam right into Adam. He steadies me and pulls me tight, so close, always forgetting not to touch me like this, and he's anxious, and he says, Are you okay? And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I've been looking for you everywhere. And I thought you'd come down to the medical wing. And it wasn't your fault. I hope you know that. It keeps hitting me in the face, in the skull, in the spine, this knowledge of just how much I care about him, how much I know he cares about me. Being close to him like this is a painful reminder of everything I had to force myself to walk away from. I take a deep breath. Adam, I ask, is Kenji okay? He's not conscious yet, he says to me, but Sarah and Sonia think he's going to be okay. They're going to stay up with him all night just to be sure he makes it through in one piece. A pause. No one knows what happened, he says, but it wasn't you. His eyes lock mine in place. You know that, right? You didn't even touch him. I know you didn't. And even though I opened my mouth a million times to say it was Warner, Warner did it. He's the one who did this to Kenji. You have to get him and catch him and stop him. He is lying to all of you. He's going to escape tomorrow. I don't say any of it, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm protecting him. I think part of me is afraid to say the words out loud, afraid to make them true. I still don't know whether or not Warner is really going to leave or even how he's going to escape. I don't know if it's even possible. And I don't know if I can tell anyone about Warner's ability yet. I don't think I want to explain to Adam that while he and the rest of Omega Point were tending to Kenji, I was hiding in a tunnel with Warner, our enemy and hostage, holding his hand and testing out his new power. I wish I weren't so confused. I wish my interactions with Warner would stop making me feel so guilty. Every moment I spend with him, every conversation I have with him makes me feel like I've somehow betrayed Adam, even though technically we're not even together anymore. My heart still feels so tied to Adam. I feel bound to him, like I need to make up for already having hurt him so much. I don't want to be the reason for the pain in his eyes, not again, and somehow I've decided that keeping secrets is the only way to keep him from getting hurt. But deep down, I know this can't be right. Deep down, I know it could end badly, but I don't know what else to do. Juliet. Adam is still holding me tight, still so close and warm and wonderful. Are you okay? And I'm not sure what makes me ask it, but suddenly I need to know. Are you ever going to tell him? Adam pulls back, just an inch. What? Warner, are you ever going to tell him the truth about the two of you? Adam is blinking, stunned, caught off guard by my question. No, he finally says. Never. Why not? Because it takes more than blood to be family, he says. I want nothing to do with him. I'd like to be able to watch him die and feel no sympathy, no remorse. He's the textbook definition of a monster. Adam says to me, just like my dad, and I'll drop dead before I recognize him as my brother. Suddenly, I'm feeling like I might fall over. Adam grabs my waist, tries to focus my eyes. You're still in shock, he says. We need to get you something to eat, or maybe some water. It's okay, I tell him. I'm okay. I allow myself to enjoy one last second in his arms before I break away, needing to breathe. I keep trying to convince myself that Adam is right, that Warner has done terrible, awful things, and I shouldn't forgive him. I shouldn't smile at him. I shouldn't even talk to him. And then I want to scream because I don't think my brain can handle the split personality I seem to be developing lately. I tell Adam I need a minute. I tell him I need to stop by the bathroom before we head over to the medical wing, and he says okay. He says he'll wait for me. He says he'll wait for me until I'm ready. And I tiptoe back into the dark tunnel to tell Warner that I have to leave, that I won't be coming back after all. But when I squint into the darkness, I can't see a thing. I look around. He's already gone. Chapter 60. We don't have to do anything at all to die. We can hide in a cupboard under the stairs our whole life, and it'll still find us. Death will show up wearing an invisible cloak, and it will wave a magic wand and whisk us away when we least expect it. It will erase every trace of our existence on this earth, and it will do all this work for free. It will ask for nothing in return. It will take a bow at our funeral and accept the accolades for a job well done, and then it will disappear. Living is a little more complex. There's one thing we always have to do. Breathe. In and out, every single day, and every hour and minute. In every hour, minute, and moment, we must inhale, whether we like it or not. Even as we plan to asphyxiate our hopes and dreams, still we breathe. Even as we wither away and sell our dignity to the man on the corner, we breathe. We breathe when we're wrong. We breathe when we're right. We breathe even as we slip off the ledge toward an early grave. It cannot be undone. So I breathe. I count all the steps I've climbed toward the noose hanging from the ceiling of my existence, and I count out the number of times I've been stupid, and I run out of numbers. Kenji almost died today because of me. It's still my fault that Adam and Warner were fighting. It's still my fault that I stepped between them. It's still my fault that Kenji felt the need to pull them apart, and if I hadn't been caught in the middle, Kenji never would have been hurt. And I'm standing here, staring at him. He's barely breathing, and I'm begging him. I'm begging him to do the one thing that matters, the only thing that matters. I need him to hold on, but he's not listening. He can't hear me, and I need him to be okay. I need him to pull through. I need him to breathe. I need him. Castle didn't have much more to say. Everyone was standing around, some wedged into the medical wing, others standing on the other side of the glass, watching silently. Castle gave a small speech about how we need to stick together, how we're a family, and if we don't have each other, then who do we have? He said we're all scared, sure, but now is the time for us to support one another. Now is the time to band together and fight back. Now is the time, he said, for us to take back our world. Now is the time for us to live, he said. We'll postpone tomorrow's departure just long enough for everyone to have a final breakfast together. We cannot go into battle divided, he said. We have to have faith in ourselves and in each other. Take a little more time in the morning to find peace with yourselves. After breakfast, we leave as one. What about Kenji? Someone asked, and I was startled to hear the familiar voice. James. He was standing there with his fist clenched, tear stains streaked across his face, his bottom lip trembling even as he fought to hide the pain in his voice. My heart split clean in half. What do you mean? Castle asked him. Will he fight tomorrow? James demanded, sniffing back the last of his tears, fists beginning to shake. He wants to fight tomorrow. He told me he wants to fight tomorrow. Castle's face creased as it pulled together. He took his time responding. I'm afraid I don't think Kenji will be able to join us tomorrow, but perhaps, he said, perhaps you could stay and keep him company. James didn't respond. He only stared at Castle. Then he stared at Kenji. He blinked several times before pushing through the crowd to clamber onto Kenji's bed, burrowed into his side, and promptly fell asleep. We all took that as our cue to leave. Well, everyone but me, Adam, Castle, and the girls. I find it interesting that everyone refers to Sonia and Sarah as the girls, as if they're the only girls in this entire place. They're not. I don't even know how they got that nickname. And while a part of me wants to know, another part of me is too exhausted to ask. I curl into my seat and stare at Kenji, who is struggling to breathe in and out. I prop my head up on my fist, fighting this sleep weaving its way into my consciousness. I don't deserve to sleep. I should stay here all night and watch over him. I would, too, if I could touch him without destroying his life. You two should really go to bed. Should really get to bed. I jerk awake, jerking up, not realizing I'd actually dozed off for a second. Castle is staring at me with a soft, strange look on his face. I'm not tired, I lie. Go to bed, he says. We have a big day tomorrow. You need to sleep. I can walk her out, Adam says. He moves to stand up. And then I can be right back. Please. Castle cuts him off. Go. I'll be fine with the girls. But you need to sleep more than we do, I tell him. Castle smiles a sad smile. I'm afraid I won't be getting any sleep tonight. He turns to look at Kenji, his eyes crinkling in happiness or pain or something in between. Did you know, Castle says to us, that I've known Kenji since he was a small boy? I found him shortly after I'd built Omega Point. He grew up here. When I first met him, he was living in an old shopping cart he'd found on the side of the highway. Castle pauses. Has he ever told you that story? Adam sits back down. I'm suddenly wide awake. No, we both say at the same time. Ah, forgive me. Castle shakes his head. I shouldn't waste your time with these things, he says. I think there's too much on my mind right now. I'm forgetting which stories to keep to myself. No, please, I want to know, I tell him. Really? Castle stares into his hands, smiles a little. There's not much to it, he says. Kenji has never talked to me about what happened to his parents, and I try not to ask. All he ever had was a name and an age. I stumbled upon him quite accidentally. He was just a boy sitting in a shopping cart, far from civilization. It was the dead of winter, and he was wearing nothing but an old t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants a few sizes too big for him. He looked like he was freezing, like he could use a few meals and place to sleep. I couldn't just walk away, Castle says. I couldn't just leave him there, so I asked him if he was hungry. He stops, remembering. Kenji didn't say a single thing for at least 30 seconds. He simply stared at me. I almost walked away, thinking I'd frightened him, but then finally he reached out, grabbed my hand, placed it in his palm, and shook it, very hard, and then he said, Hello, sir, my name is Kenji Kishimoto, and I am 9 years old. It's very nice to meet you. Castle laughs out loud, his eyes shining with an emotion that betrays his smiles. He must have been starving, the poor kid. He always, Castle says, blinking up at the ceiling now, he always had a strong, determined sort of personality, so much pride. Unstoppable, that boy. We're all silent for a while. I had no idea, Adam says, that you two were so close. Castle stands up, looks around at us and smiles too brightly, too tightly, says, Yes. Well, I'm sure he's going to be just fine. He'll be just fine in the morning, so you two should definitely get some sleep. Are you sure? Yes, please, go to bed. I'll be fine here with the girls, I promise. So we get up. And Adam manages to lift James from Kenji's bed and into his arms without waking him, and we walk out. I glance back. I see Castle fall into his chair and drop his head into his hands and rest his elbows on his knees. I see him reach out a shaky hand to rest on Kenji's leg, and I wonder how much I still don't know about these people I live with, how little I've allowed myself to become part of their world, and I know I want to change that. Chapter 61. Adam walks me to my room. It's been lights out for about an hour now, and with the exception of faint emergency lights glowing every few feet, everything is quite literally out. It's absolute blackness, and even still, the guards on patrol manage to spot us, only to warn us to go straight to our separate quarters. Adam and I don't really speak until we reach the mouth of the women's wing. There's so much tension, so many unspoken worries between us, so many thoughts about today and tomorrow and the many weeks we've already spent together. So much we don't know about what's already happening to us and what will eventually happen to us. Just looking at him, being so close and being so far away from him, it's painful. I want so desperately to bridge the gap between our bodies. I want to press my lips to every part of him, and I want to savor the scent of his skin, the strength in his limbs, in his heart. I want to wrap myself in the warmth and reassurance I've come to rely on. But in other ways, I've come to realize that being away from him has forced me to rely on myself, to allow myself to be scared and to find my own way through it. I've had to train without him, fight without him, face Warner and Anderson in the chaos of my mind, all without him by my side. And I feel different now. I feel stronger since putting space between us. And I don't know what that means. All I know is that it'll never be safe for me to rely on someone else again, to need constant reassurance of who I am and who I might someday be. I can love him, but I can't depend on him to be my backbone. I can't be my own person if I constantly require someone else to hold me together. My mind is a mess. Every single day I'm confused, uncertain, worried I'm going to make a new mistake, worried I'm going to lose my mind, worried I'm going to lose myself. But it's something I have to work through, because for the rest of my life I'll always be stronger than everyone around me, but at least I'll never have to be scared anymore. Are you going to be okay? Adam asks, finally dispelling the silence between us. I look up to find that his eyes are worried, trying to read me. Yes, I tell him. Yes, I'm going to be fine. I offer him a tight smile, but it feels wrong to be this close to him without being able to touch him at all. Adam nods, hesitates, says, "It's been one hell of a night." "And it'll be one hell of a day tomorrow, too," I whisper. "Yeah," he says quietly, still looking at me like he's trying to find something, like he's searching for an answer to an unspoken question. I wonder if he sees something different in my eyes now. He grins a small grin, says, "I should probably go," and nods at James, bundled in his arms. I nod, not sure what else to do, what to say. So much is uncertain. "We'll get through this," Adam says, answering my silent thoughts. "All of it. We're going to be okay, and Kenji will be fine." He touches my shoulder, allows his fingers to trail down my arm, and stop just short of my bare hand. I close my eyes, try to savor the moment, and then his fingers graze my skin and my eyes fly open, my heart racing in my chest. He's staring at me like he might have done much more than touch my hand if he weren't holding James against his chest. "Adam, I'm going to find a way," he says to me. "I'm going to find a way to make this work. I promise. I just need some time." I'm afraid to speak, afraid of what I might say, what I might do, afraid of the hope ballooning inside of me. "Good night," he whispers. "Good night," I say. I'm beginning to think of hope as a dangerous, terrifying thing. Chapter 62. I'm so tired when I walk into my room that I'm only half conscious as I change into the tank top and pajama pants I sleep in. They were a gift from Sarah. It was her recommendation that I change out of my suit while I sleep. She and Sonia think it's important to give my skin direct contact with fresh air. I'm about to climb under the covers when I hear a soft knock at my door. Adam is my first thought, but then I open the door and promptly close it. I must be dreaming. "Juliet." "Oh, God. What are you doing here?" I shout, whisper through the closed door. "I need to speak with you." "Right now? You need to speak with me right now?" "Yes, it's important," Warner says. "I heard Kent telling you that those twin girls would be in the medical wing tonight, and I figured it would be a good time for us to speak privately." "You heard my conversation with Adam?" I begin to panic, worried he might have heard too much. "I have zero interest in your conversation with Kent," he says, his tone suddenly flat, neutral. "I left just as soon as I heard you'd be alone tonight." "Oh," I exhale. "How did you even get in here without guards stopping you? Maybe you should open the door so I can explain." I don't move. "Please, love, I'm not going to do anything to hurt you. You should know that by now." "I'm giving you 5 minutes. Then I have to sleep, okay? I'm exhausted." "Okay," he says. 5 minutes. I take a deep breath, crack the door open, peek at him. He's smiling, looking entirely unapologetic. I shake my head. He slips past me and sits down directly on my bed. I close the door, make my way across the room from him, and sit on Sonia's bed, suddenly all too aware of what I'm wearing and how incredibly exposed I feel. I cross my arms over the thin cotton clinging to my chest, even though I'm sure he can't actually see me, and make an effort to ignore the cold chill in the air. I always forget just how much the suit does to regulate my body temperature so far below ground. Winston was a genius to design it for me. Winston and Brendan. Oh, how I hope they're okay. So, what is it? I asked Warner. I can't see a single thing in the darkness. I can hardly make out the form of the silhouette. You just left earlier in the tunnel, even though I asked you to wait. A few beats of silence. Your bed is so much more comfortable than mine, he says quietly. You have a pillow and an actual blanket. He laughs. You're living like a queen in these quarters. They treat you well. Warner, I'm feeling nervous, anxious, worried, shivering a little, and not from the cold. What's going on? Why are you here? Nothing. Still nothing. Suddenly, a tight breath. I want you to come with me. The world stops spinning. When I leave tomorrow, he says. I want you to come with me. I never had a chance to finish talking to you earlier, and I thought asking you in the morning would be bad timing all around. You want me to come with you? I'm not sure I'm still breathing. Yes. You want me to run away with you? This can't possibly be happening. A pause. Yes. I can't believe it. I'm shaking my head over and over and over again. You really have lost your mind. I could almost hear him smile in the dark. Where's your face? I feel like I'm talking to a ghost. I'm right here. Where? I stand up. I'm here. I still can't see you, he says, but his voice is suddenly much closer than it was before. Can you see me? No, I lie, and I'm trying to ignore the immediate tension, the electricity humming in the air between us. I take a step back. I feel his hands on my arms. I feel his skin against my skin, and I'm holding my breath. I don't move an inch. I don't say a word as his hands drop to my waist, to the thin material, making a poor attempt to cover my body. His fingers graze the soft skin of my lower back, right underneath the hem of my shirt, and I'm losing count of the number of times my heart skips a beat. I'm struggling to get oxygen in my lungs. Is it even possible, he whispers, that you can't feel this fire between us? His hands are traveling up my arms again, his touch so light, his fingers slipping under the straps of my shirt, and it's ripping me apart. It's aching in my core, it's a pulse beating in every inch of my body, and I'm trying to convince myself not to lose my head when I feel the straps fall down and everything stops. The air is still, my skin is scared, even my thoughts are whispering. 2, 4, 6 seconds, I forget to breathe. Then I feel his lips against my shoulder, soft and scorching and tender, so gentle I could almost believe it's the kiss of a breeze and not a boy. Again, this time on my collarbone, and it's like I'm dreaming, reliving the caress of a forgotten memory, and it's like an ache looking to be soothed. It's a steaming pan thrown in ice water. It's a flushed cheek pressed to a cool pillow on a hot, hot night, and I'm thinking, yes, I'm thinking this. I'm thinking, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Before I remember, his mouth is on my body, and I'm doing nothing to stop him. He pulls back. My eyes refuse to open. His finger touches my bottom lip. He traces the shape of my mouth, the curves, the seam, the tip, and my lips part, even though I ask them not to, and he steps closer. I feel him so much closer, feeling the air around me until there's nothing but him and his body heat, the smell of fresh soap, and something unidentifiable, something sweet, but not something real and hot, something that smells like him, like it belongs to him, like he was poured into the bottle I'm drowning in, and I don't even realize I'm leaning into him, inhaling the scent of his neck until I find his fingers are no longer on my lips because his hands are around my waist, and he says, you, and he whispers it, letter by letter. He presses the word into my skin before he hesitates, then, softer, his chest heaving harder this time, his words almost gasping this time. You destroy me. I am falling to pieces in his arms. My fists are full of unlucky pennies, and my heart is a jukebox demanding a few nickels, and my head is flipping quarters, heads or tails, heads or tails, heads or tails, heads or tails. Juliet, he says, and he mouths the name, barely speaking it at all, and he's pouring molten lava into my limbs, and I never even knew I could melt straight to death. I want you, he whispers. He says, I want all of you. I want you inside and out and catching your breath and aching for me like I ache for you. He says it like it's a lit cigarette lodged in his throat, like he wants to dip me in warm honey, and he says, it's never been a secret. I've never tried to hide that from you. I've never pretended I wanted anything less. You said you wanted friendship. Yes, he swallows. He says he swallows. I do want to be your friend. He nods, and I register the slight movement in the air between us. I want to be the friend you fall hopelessly in love with. The one you take into your arms and into your bed and into the private world you keep trapped in your head. I want to be that kind of friend, he says. The one who will memorize the things you say as well as the shape of your lips when you say them. I want to know every curve, every freckle, every shiver of your body, Juliet. No, I gasp. Don't say that. I don't know what I'll do if he keeps talking. I don't know what I'll do, and I don't trust myself. I want to know where to touch you, he says. I want to know how to touch you. I want to know how to convince you to design a smile just for me. I feel his chest rising, falling, up and down, up and down, up and... Yes, he says. I do want to be your friend, he says. I want to be your best friend in the entire world. I can't think. I can't breathe. I want so many things, he whispers. I want your mind, your strength. I want to be worth your time. His fingers graze the hem of my top, and he says, I want this up. He tugs on the waist of my pants and says, I want these down. He touches the tips of his fingers to the sides of my body and says, I want to feel your skin on fire. I want to feel your heart racing next to mine, and I want to know it's racing because of me, because you want me, because you never, he says, he breathes, never want me to stop. I want every second, every inch of you. I want all of it. And I drop dead all over the floor. Juliet. I can't understand why I can still hear him speaking because I'm dead. I'm already dead. I've died over and over and over again. He swallows hard, his chest heaving, his words a breathless, shaky whisper when he says, I'm so desperately in love with you. I'm rooted to the ground, spinning while standing, dizzy in my blood and in my bones, and I'm breathing like I'm the first human who's ever learned to fly, like I've been inhaling the kind of oxygen only found in the clouds, and I'm trying, but I don't know how to keep my body from reacting to him, to his words, to the ache in his voice. He touches my cheek, soft, so soft, like he's not sure if I'm real, like he's afraid if he gets too close, I'll just, oh, look, she's gone, she's just disappeared. His 4 fingers graze the side of my face, slowly, so slowly before they slip behind my head, caught in that in-between spot just above my neck. His thumb brushes the apple of my cheek. He keeps looking at me, looking into my eyes for help, for guidance, for some sign of a protest, like he's so sure I'm going to start screaming or crying or running away, but I won't. I don't think I could even if I wanted to, because I don't want to. I want to stay here, right here. I want to be paralyzed by this moment. He moves closer, just an inch. His free hand reaches up to cup the other side of my face. He is holding me like I'm made of feathers. He's holding my face and looking at his own hands like he can't believe he's caught this bird who's always so desperate to fly away. His hands are shaking just a little bit, just enough for me to feel the slight tremble against my skin. Gone is the boy with the guns and the skeletons in his closet. These hands holding me have never held a weapon. These hands have never touched death. These hands are perfect and kind and tender. And he leans in so carefully, breathing and not breathing, and hearts beating between us, and he's so close, and I can't feel my legs anymore. I can't feel my fingers or the cold or the emptiness of this room, because all I feel is him, everywhere, filling everything, and he whispers, please, he says, please don't shoot me for this. And he kisses me. His lips are softer than anything I've ever known, soft like a first snowfall, like biting into cotton candy, like melting and floating and being weightless in water. It's sweet. It's so effortlessly sweet. And then it changes. Oh, God. He kisses me again, this time stronger, desperate, like he has to have me, like he's dying to memorize the feel of my lips against his own. The taste of him is making me crazy. He's all heat and desire and peppermint, and I want more. I've just begun reeling in him, pulling him into me when he breaks away. He's breathing like he's lost his mind, and he's looking at me like something has broken inside of him, like he's woken up to find that his nightmares were just that they never existed, that it was all just a bad dream that felt far too real. But now he's awake and he's safe and everything is going to be okay, and I'm falling apart and into his heart, and I'm a disaster. He's searching me, searching my eyes for something, for yeses or nos or maybe a cue to keep going, and all I want is to drown in him. I want him to kiss me until I collapse in his arms, until I've left my bones behind and floated up into a new space that is entirely our own. No words, just his lips, again. Deep and urgent, like he can't afford to take his time anymore, like there's so much he wants to feel and there aren't enough years to experience it all. His hands travel the length of my back, learning every curve of my figure, and he's kissing my neck, my throat, the slip of my shoulders, and his breaths come harder, faster. His hands suddenly thread into my hair, and I'm spinning. I'm dizzy. I'm moving, and I'm reaching up behind his neck and clinging to him, and his eyes' cold heat is an ache that attacks every cell in my body. It's a wanting so desperate, a need so exquisite that it rivals everything, every happy moment I ever thought I knew. I'm against the wall. He's kissing me like the world is rolling right off a cliff, like he's trying to hang on, and he's decided to hold on to me, like he's starving for life and love, and he's never known it could ever feel this good to be so close to someone. Like it's the first time he's ever felt anything but hunger, and he doesn't know how to pace himself, doesn't know how to eat in small bites, doesn't know how to do anything in moderation. My pants fall to the floor, and his hands are responsible. I'm in his arms, in my underwear and a tank top that's doing little to keep me decent, and he pulls back just to look at me, to drink in the side of me, and he's saying, "You're so beautiful." He's saying, "You're so unbelievably beautiful." And he pulls me into his arms again, and he picks me up. He carries me to my bed, and suddenly I'm resting against my pillows, and he's straddling my hips, and his shirt is no longer on his body, and I have no idea where it went. All I know is that I'm looking up and into his eyes, and I'm thinking there isn't a single thing I would change about this moment. He has 100,000 million kisses, and he's giving them all to me. He kisses my top lip. He kisses my bottom lip. He kisses just under my chin, the tip of my nose, the length of my forehead, both temples, my cheeks, all across my jawline, then my neck, behind my ears, all the way down my throat, and his hands slide down my body. His entire form is moving down my figure, disappearing as he shifts downward, and suddenly his chest is hovering above my hips. Suddenly I can't see him anymore. I can only make out the top of his head, the curve of his shoulders, the unsteady rise and fall of his back as he inhales, exhales. He's running his hands down and around my bare thighs and up again, up past my ribs, around my lower back and down again, just past my hip bone. His fingers hook around the elastic waist of my underwear, and I gasp. His lips touch my bare stomach. It's just a whisper of a kiss, but something collapses in my skull. It's a feather-light brush of his mouth against my skin in a place I can't quite see. It's my mind speaking in 1,000 different languages I don't understand, and I realize he's working his way up my body. He's leaving a trail of fire along my torso, one kiss after another, and I really don't think I can take much more of this. I really don't think I'll be able to survive this. There's a whimper building in my throat, begging to break free, and I'm locking my fingers in his hair, and I'm pulling him up onto me, on top of me. I need to kiss him. I'm reaching up only to slip my hands down his neck, over his chest, and down the length of his body, and I realize I've never felt this, not to this degree. Not like every moment is about to explode, like every breath could be our last, like every touch is enough to ignite the world. I'm forgetting everything, forgetting the danger and the horror and the terror of tomorrow, and I can't even remember why I'm forgetting, what I'm forgetting, that there's something I already seem to have forgotten. It's too hard to pay attention to anything but his eyes, burning, his skin bare, his body perfect. He's completely unharmed by my touch. He's careful not to crush me, his elbows propped up on either side of my head. And I think I must be smiling at him because he's smiling at me, but he's smiling like he might be petrified. He's breathing like he's forgotten he's supposed to, looking at me like he's not sure how to do this, hesitating like he's unsure how to let me see him like this, like he has no idea how to be so vulnerable. But here he is, and here I am. Warner's forehead is pressed against mine, his skin flushed with heat, his nose touching my own. He shifts his weight to one arm, uses his free hand to softly stroke my cheek, to cut my face like it's spun from glass, and I realize I'm still holding my breath, and I can't even remember the last time I exhaled. His eyes shift down to my lips and back again. His gaze is heavy, hungry, weighed down by emotion I never thought him capable of. Excuse me. I never thought he could be so full, so human, so real, but it's there. It's right there, raw, written across his face like it's been ripped out of his chest. He's handing me his heart, and he says one word. He whispers one thing, so urgently. Excuse me. He says, "Juliet." I close my eyes. He says, "I don't want you to call me Warner anymore." I open my eyes. "I want you to know me," he says, breathless, his fingers pushing a stray strand of hair away from my face. "I don't want to be Warner with you," he says. "I want it to be different now. I want you to call me Aaron." And I'm about to say, yes, of course, I completely understand, but there's something about this stretch of silence that confuses me. Something about this moment and the feel of his name on my tongue that unlocks other parts of my brain, and there's something there, something pushing and pulling at my skin and trying to remind me, trying to tell me, and it slaps me in the face, it punches me in the jaw, it dumps me right into the ocean. Adam. My bones are full of ice. My entire being wants to vomit. I'm tripping out from under him and pulling myself away, and I almost fall right to the floor. And this overwhelming feeling of absolute self-loathing sticks in my stomach like the slice of a knife, too sharp, too thick, too lethal to keep me standing. And I'm clutching at myself. I'm trying not to cry, and I'm saying, no, 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 this can't happen. This can't be happening. I love Adam. My heart is with Adam. I can't do this to him. And Warner looks like I've shot him all over again, like I've wedged a bullet in his heart with my bare hands, and he gets to his feet, but he can hardly stand. His frame is shaking, and he's looking at me like he wants to say something, but every time he tries to speak, he fails. I'm sorry, I stammer. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I wasn't thinking. But he's not listening. He's shaking his head over and over and over, and he's looking at his hands like he's waiting for the part where someone tells him this isn't real, and he whispers, what's happening to me? Am I dreaming? And I'm so sick, I'm so confused because I want him, and I want Adam too, and I want too much, and I've never felt more like a monster than I have tonight. The pain is so plain on his face, and it's killing me. I feel it killing me. I'm trying so hard to look away, to forget, to figure out how to erase what just happened, but all I can think is that life is like a broken tire swing. An unborn child, a fistful of wishbones, is all possibility and potential. Wrong and right steps toward a future were not even guaranteed, and I am so wrong. All of my steps are wrong, always wrong. I am the incarnation of error. Because this never should have happened. This was a mistake. You're choosing him, Warner asks, barely breathing, still looking as if he might fall over. Is that what just happened? You're choosing Kent over me? Because I don't think I understand what just happened. I need you to say something. I need you to tell me what the hell is happening to me right now. No, I gasp. No, I'm not choosing anyone. I'm not, but I am. And I don't even know how I got here. Why? He says. Because he's the safer choice for you? Because you think you owe him something? You are making a mistake, he says, his voice louder now. You're scared. You don't want to make the difficult choice, and you're running away from me. Maybe I just don't want to be with you. I know you want to be with me, he explodes. You're wrong. Oh my God, what am I saying? I don't even know where I'm finding these words, where they're coming from, or which tree I've plucked them from. They just keep growing in my mouth, and sometimes I bite down too hard on an adverb or a pronoun, and sometimes the words are bitter, sometimes they're sweet. But right now, everything tastes like romance and regret and liar, liar, pants on fire all the way down my throat. Warner is still staring. Really? He struggles to rein in his temper and takes a step closer, so much closer, and I can see his face too clearly. I can see his lips too clearly. I can see the anger and the pain and the disbelief etched into his features, and I'm not so sure I should be standing anymore. I don't think my legs can carry me much longer. Yes. I pluck another word from the tree lying in my mouth, lying on my lips. So I'm wrong, he says the sentence quietly, so quietly. I'm wrong that you want me. That you want to be with me. His fingers graze my shoulders, my arms. His hands slide down the sides of my body, tracing every inch of me, and I'm pressing my mouth shut to keep the truth from falling out, but I'm failing and failing and failing because the only truth I know right now is that I'm mere moments away from losing my mind. Tell me something, love. His lips are whispering against my jaw. Am I blind too? I am actually going to die. I will not be your clown. He breaks away from me. I will not allow you to make a mockery of my feelings for you. I could respect your decision to shoot me, Juliet, but doing this, doing what you just did, he can hardly speak. He runs a hand across his face, both hands through his hair, looking like he wants to scream, to break something, like he's truly about to lose his mind. His voice is a rough whisper when he finally speaks. It's the play of a coward, he says. I thought you were so much better than that. I'm not a coward. Then be honest with yourself, he says. Be honest with me. Tell me the truth. My head is rolling around on the floor, spinning like a wooden top, circling around and around and around, and I can't make it stop. I can't make the world stop spinning, and my confusion is bleeding into guilt. which quickly evolves into anger, and suddenly is bubbling, raging, rising to the surface, and I look at him. I clench my shaking hands into fists. The truth, I tell him, is that I never know what to think of you. Your actions, your behavior, you're never consistent. You're horrible to me, and then you're kind to me, and you tell me you love me, and then you hurt the ones I care about most about, and you're a liar. I snap, backing away from him. You say you don't care about what you do. You say you don't care about other people and what you've done to them, but I don't believe it. I think you're hiding. I think the real you is hiding underneath all of the destruction, and I think you're better than this life you've chosen for yourself. I think you can change. I think you could be different, and I feel sorry for you. These words, these stupid, stupid words, they won't stop spilling from my mouth. I'm sorry for your horrible childhood. I'm sorry you have such a miserable, worthless father, and I'm sorry no one ever took a chance on you. I'm sorry for the terrible decisions you've made. I'm sorry that you feel trapped by them, that you think of yourself as a monster who can't be changed. But most of all, I tell him, most of all, I'm sorry that you have no mercy for yourself. Warner flinches like I've slapped him in the face. The silence between us has slaughtered 1,000 innocent seconds, and when he finally speaks, his voice is barely audible, raw with disbelief. You pity me. My breath catches, my resolve wavers. You think I'm some kind of broken project you can repair. No, I didn't. You have no idea what I've done. His words are furious as he steps forward. You have no idea what I've seen, what I've had to be part of. You have no idea what I'm capable of or how much mercy I deserve. I know my own heart, he snaps. I know who I am. Don't you dare pity me. Oh, my legs are definitely not working. I thought you could love me for me, he says. I thought you would be the one person in this godforsaken world who would accept me as I am. I thought you, of all people, would understand. His voice is right in front of mine when he says, I was wrong. I was so horribly, horribly wrong. He backs away. He grabs his shirt and he turns to leave, and I should let him go. I should let him walk out the door and out of my life, but I can't. I catch his arm. I pull him back and I say, please, that's not what I meant. He spins around and he says, I do not want your sympathy. I wasn't trying to hurt you. The truth, he says, is a painful reminder of why I prefer to live among the lies. I can't stomach the look in his eyes, the wretched, awful pain he's making no effort to conceal. I don't know what to say to make this right. I don't know how to take my words back. I know I don't want him to leave. Not like this. He looks as if he might speak. He changes his mind. He takes a tight breath, presses his lips together as if to stop the words from escaping, and I'm about to say something. I'm about to try again when he pulls in a shaky breath when he says, Goodbye, Juliet. And I don't know why it's killing me. I can't understand my sudden anxiety, and I need to know. I have to say it. I have to ask the question that isn't a question, and I say, I won't see you again. I watch him struggle to find the words. I watch him turn to me and turn away, and for one split second I see what's happened. I see the difference in his eyes, the shine of emotion I never would have dreamed him capable of, and I know. I understand why he won't look at me, and I can't believe it. I want to fall to the floor as he fights himself, fights to speak, fights to swallow back the tremor in his voice when he says, I certainly hope not. And that's it. He walks out. I'm split clean in half, and he's gone. He's gone forever.